bringing Twain's works to a wider public, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Since early 2006, a few months before I quit a career in public television, I've been recording public domain works for LibriVox.org. In the U.S., the term public domain means that the printed or recorded material has no copyright, and anyone can use it, however they want to. With a few exceptions, notably Uncle Tom's Cabin, as you can see, I've been focusing on the works of Mark Twain. Anyone with access to the web can download the sound recordings on LibriVox for free, and that's a very good thing. The works are also available, with reviews, on archive.org. So that means that people all over the world who might never have access to Twain's written works can make their own audio copies of the works and listen to them whenever they want. I know this happens because I've heard back from many grateful people, such as a Scottish postman who listens to books as he's delivering the mail, a bedridden woman who finds Twain's voice to be a comforting companion, a man who listens on his daily commute to work. My recordings have also been used as examples, good I hope, of vocalized English in a German university and other places. Another very good thing is that I get to spend time with Mark Twain every time I sit down to record his works. I never realized how prolific, inventive, creative, brave, and in many ways ahead of his time he was. His work wasn't all great, but when he wasn't churning them out to pay off debts, he was fabulous. Well, he is fabulous. His works stand and surpass the tests of time. I should also mention that you'll often find more than one voice reading Twain's works. At LibriVox.org you can choose from any of 4 voices reading Huckleberry Finn.
The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Notice: persons attempting to find a motive in this narrative will be prosecuted. Persons attempting to find a moral in it will be banished.
Persons attempting to find a plot in it will be shot.
By order of the author, per G.G., Chief of Ordnance. Explanatory.
In this book a number of dialects are used, to wit, the Missouri Negro dialect, the extremest form of the backwoods southwestern dialect, the ordinary Pike County dialect. But there's a huge difference between reading and vocalizing, and the process of changing his words from written text to audio can be taxing.
"Goodbye, my boy. Take care of yourself," said Jones and Smith and Thompson, and shook hands with me, and then all shouldered their way through the crowd toward the other end of the steamer, to have a farewell shake with somebody else, for the ship was just ready to leave. All was confusion, everybody in a hurry. I edged out of the surging mass of humanity and leaned on the port bulwarks to search among the multitude on the pier for familiar faces.
When you read a foreign name or word, or an old, no longer used word, you probably just skim over it. But if that word is going to be heard by others through time, then it's important to do as much as possible to get it right. And here's where we get into the somewhat bad part. Samuel Langhorne Clemens didn't become Mark Twain until he'd been writing newspaper articles in the American West for a few months. His first article signed Mark Twain appeared in February of 1863. It's from these early articles that I've collected examples of some of the hurdles and crevasses one stumbles onto, or into, when reading Twain's works. The first thing you find as you read Mark Twain is that, like Shakespeare and others of yore, his vocabulary contains words like yore, and encomium, and essay. How do you pronounce old words that are seldom if ever used anymore? Well, yore was easy. I remembered the old English word from stories about the knights of yore. But what about all the others? There are any number of dictionary pronunciation sites available on the web, but the one I use the most is dictionary.com, which not only confirms the spelling and meaning, but almost always also has a pronunciation button. I found encomium in Twain's 1866 article about a remarkable dream. Such steady persistence as his, such unwearying devotion to his art, are deserving of the highest encomium. Well, I didn't know how to pronounce that, nor what it means. Dictionary.com pronounces it
encomium, encomium.
Encomium turns out to be a formal expression of high praise. How about essays? Well, most folks use the word as a noun, meaning a short literary composition. Here's what he wrote in an 1864 article. He ventures upon no puppyish levity in the presence of his prince, and essays no unbecoming familiarity, but in all respects conducts himself with respectful decorum which such a puppy so situated should display. This is clearly a verb, not a noun, so it's back to dictionary.com, where we find that this essay is a verb meaning to try or attempt, with the accent on the second syllable. Here's how the Merriam-Webster dictionary site pronounces the verb.
Essay, essay.
Let me quickly give you a few more examples, and then we'll leave antiquated, rarely used vocabulary alone to fend for itself. Again from his newspaper articles, this time the Territorial Enterprise of November 1865, editorial puffing. Let John Whitcomb Smith, Esquire, one of our pioneer merchants, and one among our wealthiest and most respected citizens. Is it Whitcomb or Whitecomb? No, it turns out to be Wickham. I couldn't find the actual man's name pronounced, but took the chance that, being British, he was probably in some way connected with High Wycombe, England.
Wickham, Wickham.
Then there's Lige, from the Territorial Enterprise again. Uncle Lige. I will now relate an affecting incident of my meeting with Uncle Lige. Well, the dictionaries didn't help me on this one, but good old Ask.com referred to someone's Uncle Lige, or Elijah. So that's good enough for me. It's Uncle Lige. If all the Internet sources fail in finding a pronunciation, I can always make a call, sometimes international, to hear how a local might pronounce a word. Again from the newspaper articles, I ran into Mokelumna, or something. No pronunciations available on the web, so I found a hotel in California by that name, called it, and got this.
Hello, you have reached the Hotel Ajay in McCollum Hill, California. No one is available. McCollum Hill, California. McCollum Hill, California. McCollum.
I have seen some of the beautiful opals they find in Calaveras County near McCollum Hill. Some of them are very handsome. Dramatic reading requires either careful pre-reading or frequent stops and corrections. As Twain might say, if you don't read ahead, sometimes the voicing will probably be wrong, perhaps. Here are two examples. It was, "You'll not forget me, mother, 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 mother," with an ever-accumulating aggravation of expression upon each successive mother. Well, it should have been read, "You'll not forget me, mother, 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 mother." And here's another example, a tongue-twister. The river's surface is a printed book which never fails to divulge the hiding-place of the sunken rock, or betray the presence of the treacherous shoal. Try to say that 3 times fast. Another problem I've run into is spelling. LibriVox.org uses Project Gutenberg material for most of its recordings, since there's no question of the material being in the public domain. However, a lot of the reading I do for LibriVox.org turns up errors that have inadvertently been printed in our Project Gutenberg sources. So, I send Project Gutenberg all the spelling mistakes and typos and punctuation errors I find, and if they choose, they make corrections to their printed files. Here's one such error. Aranapogue. Aranapogue is breeding a song that will bedeck some mountain with new-made graves. Nowhere else, other than in Mark Twain's newspaper article from November 1865, is the name of the Irish play spelled with a G and a Q. The pronunciation is the same, but I point out the discrepancy to PG, Project Gutenberg, and let them deal with it. Another kind of spelling mistake occurs because most of the Project Gutenberg material comes from original sources and is scanned. The words are created by an OCR program, that's optical character recognition. I often come across words that look right but don't work in the present context. Here's an example. A broad and deep ditch, 4 miles long, which carries an abundant stream of dear water along the base of the rear hills and full length of his plantation. The D in deer comes from the OCR program thinking CL from clear is actually a D. So I stop my recording, make the change to the text, and re-record the passage with the correction stream of clear water. Punctuation questions crop up constantly. When I record quoted material, do I say quote and unquote, or do I just use a quotation-like voice? I decided early on that quote-unquote was boring, and it's a lot more fun to use a quotation-like voice. So, a year ago, Johnny came marching home. That song was sung by everybody, in every key, in every locality, at all hours of the day and night, and always out of tune. What about initials? When reading, do you read the initials or read the meaning out? Let's have the back hair brought forward as soon as convenient. Nota bene, I shall feel much obliged to you if you can aid me in getting up this panic. Without direction, I've made an executive decision that it's better to say the meaning rather than just the initials. Same with etc. or etc. And then there are dates. How to sound them? Is June 23-25, 1865, June 23rd to 25th, or June 23 to June 25, or June 23-25? Again, an executive decision. It sounds better to say June 23rd to 25th. And now for the ugly. Racist and prejudicial, or reflecting common prejudice? I'll be very brief with this, because race and prejudice, while reflected in a lot of Twain's works, was Twain holding a mirror up to what he saw in the society around him, with the idea that people might see themselves in that mirror. Twain was a social revolutionary, and while he writes about niggers in Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, he does so to reflect the reality of his time. When I came upon "To stand to leeward of a sweating negro is rough, but even a sweating negro has but one smell," I had to swallow 2010 sensitivities and voice what Twain's mirror said back then. Twain was just as plain spoken about American Indians and Chinamen, but you probably know all that better than I. I take very seriously what I do for LibriVox and Project Gutenberg. Trying to accurately record and print Twain's works in the digital world means his reflections and creations will continue to be around for everyone long after we're all gone. So here's to Mark Twain, the good, the bad, and the ugly.